y'all doing? I said how y'all doing. So where'd Perry go? Tell Perry that I said that I love him. More than you.
What's up, Siggy? Make sure you get every shot. went to class. We just didn't hear the text.
the silence, the fate of humanity rests in the brain of a university humanity rest in the brain of a university faculty member. Scott Varagona, Mathematics. Richmond West, Eastern Philosophy. Pierce Durst, Rhetoric. Steve Parker, Sociology. Brett Norager, Biology. Who will survive? Who will fall victim to the Sharknado? Their fate is in your hands. It's the 16th Life Raft debate. The LifeCast 2013 starts now.
Hello. Ow! Back at you. How is everybody? Well, as usual, every single bit of this is happening due solely to my own efforts. What? Oh, whoops. That's not true. Lots of people have helped, and I need to mention them very briefly. Certainly, Dr. Cofield and his mass comm students are making all of this in all sorts of ways possible, especially the live streaming. Marion Brown and the Palmer staff are making all sorts of other parts of it possible. The Philosophy Club, the only club that matters, is doing all sorts of work tonight. The participants, past, present, and future, are the only thing that really matter about the debate. My wife, Cheryl Patton, and the people at the Eclipse who have provided the refreshments and the after party, I'd like to thank them too. The SGA, who's providing funding for this event, doing a great job at that. And last but not least, what a great audience! I love cheap applause. But all the audiences, past, present, and future, have made this event one of the most successful on campus, and I can't begin to thank you for that. So we may as well get to it. As much as I'd like to stand up here and talk, because that's what I do for a living, I'll introduce our panelists. Coming in first, defending champion from biology, Brett Norager. Or not. Brett. There we go. And I'll take that or, please. Don't make me fall, I'm an old man. Look at that, he's put his own little plaque on it. Isn't that sad? We'll fix that. Second, defending sociology, as if that's possible, Steve Parker.
I'll take care of it.
And in the seemingly endless array of mathematicians trying to defend their discipline, Scott Varagona. I get the feeling somebody's been offering extra credit in a required math class. It's just a feeling. I'm not casting any aspersions on Scott. I would never do such a thing. Next, defending Eastern philosophy, the most peaceful of all disciplines, Richmond West. Oh. And finally, the most worrisome candidate because he's defending rhetoric, the art of persuasion, Pierce Durst. Sounds like some more extra credit going on here. The University of Montevallo has a student body population that's 33% men and 67% women. The faculty, I'm told today the faculty is 50-50 men and women, and yet I wasn't able to recruit any women to serve on the panel. So WTF stands for, where's the females? I'm sad to tell you that all of your female professors are treading water or have already drowned because they refuse to be on the panel. So I expect you to use all your pressure and influence and charm next year to get some female representation on the panel. Otherwise, the world is going to be ruled by white guys again. I have a lot of promises from people that they'll do it next year, but if any one year, everyone that said last year they'd do it this year showed up, we'd have 40 panelists. So we're just going to go with this, and I won't be any rougher on the people that didn't volunteer than I have to be. Yeah, I will. Look, I mean, we're all professors. We're a bunch of narcissistic exhibitionists. This is what we do for a living. If you don't want to get up on the Life Raft panel, I think you should be fired for not defending your discipline. Just kidding, Dr. Stewart. I don't want any of my colleagues fired. I know you're out there somewhere. Anyway, we're going to start with each participant having 5 minutes to defend their discipline. Then we'll have a 3-minute rebuttal by each person, and then who knows what will happen. Eventually you'll vote, and only one person will walk away with the oar, and the rest will be left to drown with all the people who didn't agree to serve on the panel this year. So let's take it away. You may come up to the podium. You may take the fancy wireless mic if you can work it. People had trouble with that last year. And do as you will. So, Dr. Noreger, you have your 5 minutes.
Thank you. Have you enjoyed the last year? Did you have a lot of steak? Beer? Medicine? Clean water? Maybe it was the sex. So I've been doing a lot of thinking over the last year about my position and how did we ever get into this mess to begin with? And what can we do about it, knowing that information? So I've really been wondering about what brought this on us. What catastrophic event occurred? What apocalyptic event required us to sail away on a life raft to start a new society? And I think Dr. Hope was right last year that it wasn't a nuclear event. It was something else. So I've got a few hypotheses. I think it was science that did this to us. I've had an epiphany that it was science that did this to us. That science created global warming, and that the change in the Earth's atmosphere, the warming of the Earth, and the melting of the polar ice caps, and the rising sea levels created drought and disease and abnormal weather patterns, which changed the entire environment. And science created that. Unbelievable. Science made up this thing called carbon dioxide. It's a colorless, odorless gas. It's invisible. Can't see it. How do we know it's there? And they said that carbon dioxide caused this. Caused the global warming and the climate change. If we had just denied it long enough, but no, science had to have its way. So there you go. There's also this thing called dihydrogen monoxide. You probably haven't heard about that. You hear about the carbon dioxide, but you don't hear about the dihydrogen monoxide. Do you know that if you inhale dihydrogen monoxide, you're going to die? That prolonged exposure to it causes skin problems, wrinkling of your skin. If you're exposed to it in a solid phase, you can experience severe tissue trauma. Or if you get exposed to the gaseous dihydrogen monoxide, you can get burned. They don't tell you about that. There was a panel less than 2 weeks ago. This intergovernmental panel on climate change decided that the warming trend that's been occurring on the planet over recent decades, there's a 95 to 100% chance that it was caused by humans, which means that there's up to a 5% chance that they're wrong. It sounds like the old boy network to me. I mean, this is peer review, hundreds of international experts in the field of climate change. So that's one idea. Another idea about why this happened has to do with disease also, and it has to do with science causing the disease. They want us to get these vaccines to prevent these diseases that are basically eradicated. Measles and mumps and diphtheria and whooping cough, and I'm out of time, but I mean, science is behind this. Another theory I've had is evolution, or the lack thereof. If evolution were true, why didn't we evolve an adaptation to allow us to breathe dihydrogen monoxide? Some scientist made that up. Says that I'm descended from an ape in a tree with a tail.
Well, it seems like some people have been partaking of dihydrogen monoxide that's been turned into wine or something like that. Thanks for that inspiring yet somewhat baffling presentation. Next up, Steve Parker with the daunting task of defending sociology.
Pleasure to be here. By the best of my figuring, this is about the 8th Life Raft debate I've participated in. Most recently, it's been as advocate, devils or otherwise, and I've once had the privilege of moderating this esteemed event, but it's been a long time since I've competed for the last seat on the raft. Dr. Patton asked if I would defend sociology. And I'm not sure what I said, but I was thinking, no, I won't defend sociology. Because sociology doesn't need defending. I will agree to represent the discipline. I will agree to present myself as a sociologist. And that's what I'm going to try to attempt to do this evening. I have no props, no PowerPoints, no bells, no dry humor, no fireside appreciations, no whistles, perhaps unprepared. Non-serious, but the standard that's been set, I would say, no, that's not correct. That's not true. I do feel rather calm, and it's not so much a confidence in myself as it is a confidence in you. I got nothing except a few basic points, and I would like to ask you to consider them before making a decision. Not even sure I'm really trying to persuade you as much as respect you enough that I ask that you reflect on a couple basic points before rendering your Ptolemaic judgment. First, it behooves us to consider what led us to this point, as opposed to gases that I can't pronounce. I would suggest it wasn't because of a lack of our knowing our multiplication tables or some of the tenets of Buddhism, which are all good things to know. But rather, I think it's rather safe to assume there is some sort of fundamental social breakdown, our collective inability to make decisions that could have prevented this. Now, over the last 125 years or so, sociology has developed a substantial trove of knowledge that might have helped us avoid our current situation, if only we respected and honored this discipline as much as those that are often placed higher on the food chain of science and scholarship. Sociologists have identified some basic themes and truisms with respect to social processes and dynamics, causal linkages between elements of all social structure, between economics and politics, ideology and criminal justice, family and education, and the relationship of these institutional frameworks and their impacts on communities, groups, individuals, and corresponding life chances and opportunities for individuals. And yet this substantive knowledge is of less importance than what sociology has by way of a unique perspective, a form of consciousness, if you will. Sociology teaches us the value of questioning. It's a discipline that recognizes the value of asking good questions. Indeed, we realize the questions are more important than the answers. We ask who does what, who gets what, how is it done, and then in each of those cases we follow up with why and with what consequences. I stand accused of being cynical, to which I plead, you're welcome. We, society, need cynics. We need deviants. And I can fill both roles. What some fail to appreciate is that for a sociologist, cynicism is not the goal, it is a tool, and it is a useful tool. I don't guess I was born with this perspective, but this form of consciousness, but I developed it early in my life. As an early elementary school student, I questioned teachers, principals, and more generally anyone claiming authority. I questioned whether or not they actually had it. Somewhere along the line, I moved from St. Louis Public Schools 61 Detention Center to being a professor. I was lucky to find a way to get paid for what I found as a natural way of living my life, asking questions. Now, they wouldn't pay me without some kind of formal training, and I've received that, and I am thankful. And I'm here to say that that formal training would not have been enough by itself. The training would have made me, it makes anyone, a technician, not someone with a sociologically charged imagination. Now, I am not suggesting that you choose a random generic sociologist. I've been to sociology meetings, conferences, I've worked on editorial boards, I've had colleagues. And in many cases, if any of those people were on the raft, I would welcome the opportunity to volunteer to be shark bait. It's not the knowledge, it's not the information, it's the person, the individual human being, and what they do with it. And I think that is true of all disciplines represented here. You're not voting for a discipline, you're voting for a person. And yet the presentations offered, my guess will be, largely reduce individuals involved, fine upstanding individuals, loved by their mothers in each and every case, to the status of a technician, as a vessel of data and facts and rote skills, as if what they have to offer is a set of objective knowledge and facts that exist apart from themselves, their own personhood. I hope and trust the new social order that will arise from people on this raft will be one based on our common humanity, a society of humans and interacting individuals, not technoids and experts. I say beware anyone claiming to possess tablets made of stone or gold or knowledge. What I offer is not truth, not facts. I offer to be a participant, to participate with you in the noble process of creativity via questioning so that we can create a greater, newer social order. Thank you.
Very inspiring, and perhaps true. Maybe if we esteemed sociology as much as, say, philosophy, it would make a difference in the world, but we all know that's not going to happen. Now we have Scott Varagona defending mathematics. It's over here. Scott Farragona, Divinity Mathematics.
All right, how's everybody doing? First of all, let me say thank you all for hearing us out. I realize you're all on the raft already. You could have just sailed away without us, but no, you chose to stay and give us a chance. So for that, I thank you. Now, why should you save mathematics and drown everybody else? We should talk about that. Why is mathematics important? Why do we need it? I know what some of you may be thinking. It's 2013. Can't we just plug things into a calculator? Can't we look up mathematical concepts online, as we need them? And the answer to that is no, because it's the apocalypse. The internet is gone. You can't Google the answers to anything anymore. You have to start from scratch. All of civilization has to start from scratch. So a mathematician is just who you need, because a mathematician is trained to start from scratch. When mathematicians approach a new and difficult problem, a problem that no one on the planet knows how to solve yet, mathematicians apply their critical thinking skills, their ingenuity, their past experience, and they piece together a solution on their own. That is the kind of mental survival skill that you guys need on the Life Raft. See, mathematics isn't primarily about number crunching. It's about ideas and intuition and, yes, even imagination. It's about building your mental muscles. Doing mathematics is like weightlifting with your mind. Geometry. Calculus. And the thing is, those mental muscles that you build can unexpectedly help you in other areas like science or philosophy or art or even games like chess. Just throwing that out there. So these are some of the virtues of mathematics. Now, I realize that not everyone on the raft is going to want to become a mathematician. I know that's not everybody's dream, and that's okay. But that doesn't change the fact that you've got to have mathematics. If you want to design a city or build buildings in that city, if you want to construct a bridge that won't collapse, you probably need mathematics. If you want to manage an economy, if you want to avoid getting swindled in a shady business deal, all of these things require mathematics. It's something that the future civilization is going to need. You've got to have it. Somebody's got to do it. So why not me? I'll work to earn my keep, and I'm a really conservative eater. You won't even notice I'm here. So yeah, it's like win-win. Now, one last remark about the other disciplines. The other disciplines are all well and good, but I will say that they all have a fundamental flaw. Other disciplines have fads. Schools of thought come and go, they wax and they wane, but the truth of mathematics is eternal. It's timeless truth. No apocalypse can destroy it. Regardless of what you do with me, mathematics will follow you onto the raft. It'll follow you wherever you go. You'll have to have it, whether you're in Montevallo or on Mars. So why not embrace it? Why not embrace it? That's the choice that you have. So please, make that choice. Bring me along. Embrace mathematics and save the world.
Man, mathematics sounds like kind of a creepy stalker. Is he behind me now? Did he hear me say that? And as long as math will restore the economy to its current level in the new world, I'm for it. Next, defending Eastern philosophy, we have Richmond West. Woo!
Thank you. I teach Eastern philosophy. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. And because of this, I do not want you to save me. Please do not vote for me. Actually, I think the attempt to save oneself is very dangerous and probably what got us in this fix. The Tao Te Ching, the Chinese classic, states that the reason I have an enemy is that I have a self. If I had no self, I would have no enemy. According to Siddhartha, the historical Buddha, we ultimately do not have a self. The problem is we misperceive ourselves, like we misperceive a cloud from a distance. When we look at a cloud from a distance, it looks absolutely still. We think of it as static, permanent, enduring. But if we actually go into the cloud, we see that everything is moving, changing. In a similar way, we think of ourself as permanent and enduring. We become attached to it. We think we are separate from other people. But this attachment to ourself, this misperception of ourself as permanent and enduring rather than changing, is ultimately the cause of suffering. In other words, this attachment to ourself produces desire, and desire causes suffering. Out of a false sense of self, we act out of greed, hatred, and delusion and create further suffering for the world. We think others are separate from ourselves. We forget that what we actually are is interconnected and interdependent. Your suffering is my suffering. So if we have no desire to save our, quote, self, we will find liberation through caring for the others here, not for ourselves. Then we will awake, like waking with Christ in Gethsemane. If you are only aware of yourself, you are not aware at all. In Walpola Rahula's book, What the Buddha Taught, about the life and teachings of Siddhartha, he writes, "It is this thirst, greed, craving that gives rise to all forms of suffering." Here the term thirst includes not only the desire for an attachment to sense pleasure, wealth, and power, but also desire for an attachment to ideas and ideals, views, opinions, theories, conceptions, and beliefs. According to the Buddha's analysis, Rahula continues, all the troubles and strifes in the world, from little personal quarrels in families to great wars between nations and countries, arise out of this selfish thirst. I would say that we now in our society have so many parallels to George Orwell's 1984, a book that spoke of perpetual war, torture, a junior anti-sex league, social control through drugs, and televised propaganda. Let's look at this closely. Orwell's perpetual war? Look at our war on terror and current arguments in favor of torturing our enemies. Orwell's junior anti-sex league? Look at the way hostile environment sexual harassment law has expanded far beyond its original parameters, so that now, even if someone simply makes me uncomfortable because they are unattractive, awkward, or sexually deviant, I am encouraged to bring them up on charges. Social control through drugs? Prozac is a billion-dollar industry, but often psychiatrists do not even talk to their patients. Televised propaganda? Check out CNN or Fox News sometime. One of the most profound scenes in Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back is when Yoda sends Luke Skywalker into a cave of darkness to face what appears to be Darth Vader. Yoda tells Luke, "Your weapons, you will not need them." But Luke takes his weapons anyway. Within the cave, he strikes Darth Vader, strikes to kill his enemy, and he cuts off Darth Vader's head in anger. But when he looks at the head as it rolls on the ground and the mask melts away, Luke realizes he sees only his own face. In attempting to destroy the other out of the false sense of himself, he actually destroys himself. If only we recognize this in our increasingly Orwellian society before we become a police state, before we torture someone else in a perpetual war on terror or strike at faceless enemies with drones. If only we recognize this before we destroy our environment out of human greed. If only we recognize this before we bring someone else who is unattractive or sexually deviant up on hostile environment sexual harassment charges merely for making us uncomfortable. If only we recognize this before we lock someone else in a mental institution and pump drugs into them without even talking to them. In protecting ourselves out of a false sense of self, we actually destroy ourselves. Perhaps that's why we're on a life raft to begin with. All this is a fun exercise, but there is some truth to this, I think. Many philosophers like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Jesus, Socrates, Bonhoeffer, and so many others gave their lives to try to teach us about our false sense of the self and how it can destroy us. In the words of Jesus, he who seeks to save his life will lose it, but he who loses his life will find it. As you metaphorically float away on the raft to create a new society, think about the mistakes that are destroying this one. I believe we are increasingly becoming a police state out of fear. Fear arises out of a false sense of self. Fear is perhaps what is destroying us. So I hope you will think not about me, but my words and my philosophy, that I was willing to give up my life for someone else. That's what I want to endure. This is simply a fun event, but I hope that I would do this in a real scenario. I hope I would give up my life so that others in a new society would think about the false sense of self that is so destructive before we simply destroy ourselves again. Thank you.
I never thought I'd go back and watch the Star Wars movies until I learned they were about Buddhism. Thank you. Now I have something to do this weekend. And last but certainly not least, in his original first presentation about rhetoric, we have Pierce Durst.
Scott, there's more than one skinny guy on the live raft potentially who has a light appetite. So I'm happy to join with you tonight on this monumental evening when you are asked to decide what direction is best for maintaining our humanity in the murky currents of this unknown future. 2,500 years ago, the art of speaking and writing was defined by the ancient Greeks, and I stand here right now defending its name. Rhetoric, in the words of Aristotle, is persuasion toward correct judgments. Rhetorical studies assumes that any time that you communicate, that there is persuasion taking place. That means in any discipline, even the most scientific of disciplines, whenever words are used, there is inherent subjectivity, a lack of neutrality, or in a word, persuasion that must take place. This extends far beyond just academic arguments, but we are persuaded to wear certain clothes. We are persuaded to believe certain religious creeds as much as we are politically and collectively persuaded to vote for a president or a member of the Life Raft. And nowhere in this understanding is rhetoric defined as false, empty, or misleading speech. And while the news media denigrates political rhetoric, perhaps for all the right reasons, this is not the same as the discipline I'm defending. And I believe if you understand rhetoric as the art of persuasion, then you will understand its pervasiveness in our daily life and why it is essential, among other things, for a properly functioning democracy. Let me illustrate this claim by stepping back 2,000 years to the Roman Empire, which watched their democracy erode as rhetorical expression was limited. So when Julius Caesar took over Rome, the first thing he did was have Cicero, who was a great speaker, but the best rhetorical teacher of his time, killed. He had him killed along with anyone else who spoke publicly in opposition to the emperors who ruled Rome. And the point I want to make by this historical anecdote is that the emperors used rhetoric for their own good, denied everyday citizens the ability to not only speak openly and freely, but with intelligence and conviction in public forums, because they knew if they did that they risked an uprising. So as a result, the point I want to make is that a vote for rhetoric is a vote for us collectively as a whole to work through social problems, political problems, in a democratic state. But rhetoric is much more than a door to democracy. It is also the key to greater artistic expression. Rhetoric neither abides by the rules of abstract logic, nor does it follow the rigid deductive reasoning of math and science. Instead, rhetoric begins with the assumption that we live in a world controlled by the emotional sways of love, tragedy, and renewal. Rhetoric is of the heart. It beats beneath every poem, every novel, and every great movie that you've ever seen. And whether you see it or fully know it or not, it is the art of expression that helps us to communicate, to make sense of, and to commune with all that is beautiful in this world. It is a true sustenance, a food of life that transcends base needs and desires. It is our symbol use, our rhetoric, that separates us from animals and furthers our intrinsic humanity. In other words, rhetoric highlights the world of human culture and language, believing and delighting in the power of the word because of its inherent capability to disclose the world. And while this might sound abstract and somewhat serious at this moment, as things slow down on the life raft, drifting out to sea, it will become infinitely clear that words create our reality, that in the beginning is the word, and that the only discipline that's truly able to grapple with these most fundamental questions of human existence is rhetoric. Questions that are grounded in the basic process of turning thoughts into words by which humans know, interpret, and create their worlds. And so it is my duty to end this speech by urging you to be critical. Be critical of my words as much as the words of my colleagues. This is the essence of what rhetoric teaches. It teaches you to be critical of how each one of us constructs our professorial credibility, how each one of us appeals to your emotions, and how each one of us tries to use facts and logic and reasoning to attempt to lead you to certain conclusions. And so my hope is that choosing rhetoric will be done with a clear mind, that you will understand the implications of this choice that results in a collective democracy. We are all working together, and rhetoric can bring out our collective knowledge, skills, and understandings. Rhetoric can also bring out our awareness of the arts, and it can help bring out truth-seeking in every single form that it takes. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Well, I guess I have to be convinced if that was rhetoric. So. Anyway, it seems someone new has joined us on the stage. It's Kevin Hope, this year's Devil's Advocate, former champion in the discipline of physics. He'll be withholding his comments until after the rebuttal portion of the evening, which is starting now. Kicking it back to Brett for biology. Another fireside chat?
Yeah, no, thanks. Go away. I have less of a rebuttal and more of a couple of concluding remarks. So there is another hypothesis that I came up with. It doesn't have as much evidence to support it, so just kind of hear me out. Another possibility about why we're here right now is because we made God angry. He has smote us. And the reason why is because the Astros moved to the American League this year. Thank you. As a lifelong Astros fan, hate to admit that, from the time I was this high, I think you need to vote me on the Raft just so somebody will support the Astros. They suck. That's one remark. The second remark is I've got to do something to defend biology. Okay, so here it is. Biology's gross. It is. I mean, particularly my area, which is all about the human body. Poop, and pee, and pus, and oozy, slimy stuff. It's cool. It's just cool. It really is. So that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Wow, I was just getting interested in the 3 Ps. Poo, pee, and pus. I was a biology major in college. They never told me that. This is the good stuff. Dr. Parker. What do you got to follow that?
As a Cardinal fan, for those of you that are Astro fans, you might not realize baseball continues into October. I think everybody on stage is an honorable individual, worthy of respect. They're here defending their disciplines, and there are a lot more people that aren't defending their disciplines than are here. So I genuinely do have respect and admiration for everyone. With that said, I can't get the Astros thing out of my head, so we'll just move on. The differentiation of math versus other faddish disciplines kind of struck me, because it seemed like every other year from 3rd grade to 12th there was a new math. And and then the buildings sort of crumble at that point. Eastern philosophy, I guess my first response is, okay. And you've continued the track record. I don't know if I've ever heard a philosopher talk more than 5 minutes without bringing up Star Wars. So that warmed my heart. I was almost convinced by the value of rhetoric until I realized it's all about the art of persuasion as opposed to the substance of persuasion. The Andre Agassi of academe, image is everything. There was one point through your presentation where I thought, drawing on a wonderful rhetorician, my kingdom for a mime, it crossed my head, crossed my mind. It's about, we're building a society. Before we get to bridges and skyscrapers and shady loans, we got to decide how we're going to treat each other. And I think it might be worth trying to start there. That's all.
I couldn't see from backstage. Did you just drop the mic? This is getting bad, man. And I noticed you said you respected everyone that was on stage right after I got off stage. Thanks. So now for rebuttal, Dr. Scott Varragona.
All right, well, so some new developments I see. First of all, I should point out that while yes, of course, I do have tremendous respect for the other sciences, I would point out that mathematics is the fountain from which the other sciences must drink in order to survive. You can't have any other sciences without mathematics. So I say to you, why not go straight to the source? Bring mathematics on the raft and everything else will just flow. Yes, as for Eastern philosophy, it seems like we really shouldn't feel that bad about drowning him. It's, you know, he'll be at peace. He'll be one with the ocean. It'll be wonderful. But as for me, I want to live. I want to fight and work hard for a better future for myself and for all you guys. So definitely, oh yes, please. I want to live. And as for rhetoric, I would point out that rhetoric is important, but on the other hand, many fantastic world leaders have been great at rhetoric, and so have many corrupt dictators who led people astray. Rhetoric, having lots of people who are good at rhetoric is no guarantee that civilization will head in the right direction. But if you don't have mathematics, then I guarantee that civilization will head in the wrong direction. So I'd also like to take one moment to say a word about the devil's advocate. You can't trust anything he says, because he kept quiet about this for weeks. Our surprise devil's advocate. But in all seriousness, I don't know what he's going to say, but whatever it is, it's wrong. All of the panelists you see here have PhDs, which takes a fair degree of intelligence, a lot of dedication and hard work, and these are the qualities that you need on the life raft. So what good would it do you not to take any of us? Take at least one of us. You can always throw us off the raft later if you don't like us. Why not? But do take mathematics.
So being a philosopher and having studied logic, I think I know what the devil's advocate is going to say, since everything he says is a lie, that you should take Scott on the raft. Kind of walked into that one, I think. Anyway, next up, Richmond West for Eastern philosophy yet again.
Well, I don't know what to say because I've already argued that I should not go. So, but I thought about, since we have a devil's advocate, Jesus had a temptation scene with the devil, and similarly, Siddhartha also faced the demon Mara, the lord of samsara, the conventional world of illusion. And what he finally realized was that he was simply facing himself. So this is what I have to say to the devil's advocate. O Lord of my own ego, you are pure illusion. You do not exist. The earth is my witness.
Man, we got to cut down the rebuttal period, huh? Just getting back there, getting comfortable, let's come back up. All right, next we have, of course, Pierce Durst for rhetoric. Your rebuttal, sir.
Thank you. The first thing I want to say is that sitting back as an audience member, it should be clear to you, no matter how it's couched, no matter how everyone's saying it, the aim here is persuasion. Everyone on the stage is using rhetoric, and it's not a bad thing. In other words, what makes this night possible? What kind of exercise is the Life Raft debate? It is a rhetorical exercise. Insofar as we're on stage trying to persuade you, as much as you as an audience are involved in this, you have to evaluate, negotiate our rhetorical appeals. So, don't let anyone on the stage say rhetoric is a bad thing because they don't understand it, if that's the case, or if they're not using it, because we are all using it. It's a positive thing. It's what makes not only this night possible, it's what makes a democracy possible. It's what makes communication between and among all of us possible. So that's the first thing I want to say. The other thing, I kind of want to address my colleagues. Brett, the first thing I want to say in terms of biology is that we don't necessarily need a biologist to get food. We don't necessarily need a mathematician. And as an English major, I'm just going to stop there. Ask anyone in the department, right? Okay. We don't need Eastern philosophy, and while a rich tradition, in order to communicate, to perpetuate this body of beliefs, you need rhetoric to communicate, to share that, to perpetuate it, to grow it. We don't need a sociologist to tell us what direction is best for society. And the whole point of my speech was that rhetoric allows each and every one of us to participate in the collective social and political challenges of society. In other words, a vote for one person on the stage besides me, I think, is a vote for that single individual. Whereas rhetoric is a vote for each and every one of us to bring out collective wisdom, knowledge, ideas, our intelligence. So let's say there's a landscape architect out there. I can teach you rhetoric so that you can communicate that to the society at large. Let's say there's a construction worker. I can teach you rhetoric so that you can not only teach us, but teach future generations. And you can do that with all skill sets, all wisdom, all knowledge can be brought out through rhetoric. And that's what I propose to do, is to work together as a collective whole. Voting for rhetoric is a vote for all of us. And I hope that you keep that in mind as you look forward on the Life Raft. Thank you.
Can you get me a plumber that can keep my toilet from clogging? What? Can you get me a plumber with your rhetoric? My toilet is not working real well. I had no idea rhetoric was so practical. Okay, now we have former Life Raft debate champion in physics and current devil's advocate, Kevin Hope. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. Actually, I got that wrong. It's abandon hope.
Now, so far since I've walked out on the stage, I have been told that everything I say is a lie. Scott deserves to be on this Life Raft. Oops. Sorry about that. And, well, I want to spend a moment reliving the history of the Life Raft debate with all of you. This is the 16th Life Raft debate, after all. And by now, a couple of disciplines have been prominent, some people even more prominent. And let's look at where it's gotten us so far. So, Brett, he won the Life Raft last year. No hard feelings. I'm okay. But he's not the first biologist. And in fact, he's not even the first person to promise beer. However, I think he is the first person to come up here and use pee, poop, and a couple of other bodily fluids. I think you got pus in there. But you missed scabs. I think scabs would have been a nice touch. Yeah, you could have gone from there. And, well, Steve here, he said it himself. This is his 8th time trying to get on the boat. How many times has that worked out for you? 1? Right? probably better that way. And now for Scott, I have a couple of things about Scott. Because you know, everything I say is a lie. I'm not bitter. The first of which is Scott is not the first mathematician. He's not even the second mathematician to try to get on the boat. He is, in fact, the third mathematician to try to get on the boat. How many mathematicians do we need? Now, he says that there are no fads in math. And he says that if you want to build a bridge that will stand or a building that will stand, then you need a mathematician. I'd like a bridge built between Harmon and here. Get started on that. Let me know how it works out. Because without physics, it's just not happening. Now, you might be able to design some sort of topological manifold or something like that, but it would all be in your head. And you know, Scott also said, and I will roughly quote Scott here, he is trained to start from scratch. He started off in the water from scratch. Build a boat. And you know, I would pick on Richmond, but I think he's already done enough to himself. You should have gone with a glass of wine before all this. Now, if we get over here to rhetoric, Richmond. No, it's Pierce, Richmond. Well, if I want to watch rhetoric, I'll just turn on C-SPAN. There's a hell of a lot of rhetoric in Washington right now. And it's not a good thing. Oh, now we're drawing straws, are we? Political rhetoric is different from regular rhetoric. I think that's some rhetoric going on there, but I'm not positive. My argument for all of you is this. None of these people need to be here tonight. Why? We've got a biologist. Steve's already been on the boat once. We kicked him off. We've got 2 mathematicians who have visited us. I think we've tied Steve onto the boat as a log by now, too. We've got philosophers, and we've had people try to argue about getting on the boat with rhetoric. See Dr. Batkey a couple of years ago. So it comes down to this. Why waste space and resources to get more of the same? We've had all of these people on here before in one form or another. Yeah, they may say snappier things at some times. They may call people liars. Still not bitter. But you know, the best thing to do is save those resources, because I'm sure that we'll stumble across another 5 or 6 people in about a year. And maybe one of them will be more worthy. Thank you.
Who knew the Prince of Lies was so sensitive about being called a liar? Okay, now's the time on the Life Draft debate where we vote. So you have your Scantron sheets. If you don't, one will be provided for you by a helpful Philosophy Club member. And you have your pencils. What sign? Oh, Pierce's sign fell down. Okay. So you enter A by the number 1 for Brett and biology, A by the number 2 for Steve and sociology, A by the number 3 for Scott and mathematics, A by the number 4 for Richmond and Eastern philosophy, A by the number 5 for Pierce and rhetoric, and A by the number 6 for Kevin and the devil's advocate. There will be a slide here making that obvious. If you're voting for Ron Paul, you're just throwing your vote away. We'll get a slide up here that shows that. When you're finished voting, pass your ballots to the aisles and they'll be collected. We will grade them with electronic wizardry and be back to you in a few minutes. Pat, oh.
Check, check, 1, 2.
Excellent. All right. I want to thank the panelists. They always do all the work, and I want y'all to thank them too, and you have by voting. But when I give this out, clap for everyone, not just the winner. And I want to thank the audience. But with over 600 votes cast and tabulated, the Life Raft debate of 2013 has been won for the third time by the discipline of mathematics. Scott Varagona, your 2013 champion. Finally, you can exercise your real muscles instead of your mental muscles. Thanks, everybody. We're going to retire to the Eclipse for the after party. Do what you will. See you next year. As always, y'all are the best. Oh, wait. Give the panel a great round of applause.